We are going to get started here with our Q&A about the UX job search, and we will also be looking at this through the lens of Phoenix, who is with us today. And Phoenix has been a part of my UX job search accelerator called Career Strategy Lab. And Phoenix is kind of in the middle of the journey that we designed inside Career Strategy Lab. So this is your chance to really hear from someone who is in the middle of getting all their stuff together for the job search, hear what Phoenix thinks is working for him and the progress that Phoenix has made. And we are going to have time for some Q&A as well. Oh, the one thing I wanted to do really quickly was share my screen. So just to set the stage, what do we do inside Career Strategy Lab? We really help you design, market, and sell yourself as a candidate. So I want to just share this before I get into the Q&A with Phoenix, because this does a really great job at communicating what we do inside Career Strategy Lab. And Phoenix, maybe we'll end up referencing this in our conversation, but we look at you as a candidate and your career as a product. And we really believe that great products need three things, such as this Venn diagram, right? Design, market, and sales elements. And so when it comes to the design of you, the design of the product of you, we think of this through things like looking at your past. What have you done in previous jobs, maybe even in previous careers? Then looking forward, just like you do with a product, to figure out what is the roadmap for your career, and then buttoning that all up into a candidate elevator pitch about me. We call it a compass statement. And then when it gets into the marketing, it's kind of the trifecta of resume, portfolio, and LinkedIn. And then sales, that is really all about relationships and your job search, meaning what you are doing even before you apply to start building and nurturing relationships. And of course, after you apply as well. So we may touch on some of this today, but I just want to kind of look at this just briefly now to set the stage of all the different things that we believe are required to help you stand out in your job search. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and introduce Phoenix. Phoenix, I think it'd be really valuable if you told everyone a little bit about what you do in the world of UX and how things were going before you ever ended up joining Career Strategy Lab. Like, what was the state of affairs in the world of Phoenix a couple of months ago? Because you only joined, I think, was it in July? Remind
July
me.
23rd.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, so I'll let you take it away, and then we can kind of continue our conversation.
Sure. So when I started, I kind of did not actually know what do I do in UX completely. I'm kind of a person that loves to just jump around and be like, oh, this is interesting, this is interesting, this is interesting. And my last job, that was kind of where I was placed. Whatever was challenging, let me go and do that for now. Let me do a design system. Let me do some research. Let me do whatever. And just kind of just sampling. And before that, I wasn't even really in UX. I was a developer. I was a system analyst. I studied psychology. I've done so much stuff. But really where I focus my energy on is being the system designer, being able to really understand the structure. I am not a solid person when it comes to visual design. And I was lucky to be in industries where that was not needed. But where I am great was understanding systems and understanding why they worked. My last position was in cybersecurity. And through the compass statement, I understood that people saw me as a leader that brought up the team, that could get the systems quickly, that could understand the error statements, understand every way that a product could go wrong. And I'm designing to make sure the products don't break.
I think it's such an important point that you made, Phoenix, in that when you've been working in UX for a while, you have such a possibly broad experience. And like you said, how do you figure out where do you go from here? What do you want your next chapter to look like, especially not conforming to maybe what you believe everyone wants, but also staying true to like, what do you actually want to do, right? Because we don't have to conform to what, in your case, you didn't decide, I'm going to go be a visual designer because you said it yourself. It's not your strength. And I don't think you want to do that in the future, right?
I love other people polishing my work for me.
Me too. So what prompted you to ever join Career Strategy Lab? Can you tell everyone that bit of your story, if you remember?
I saw at one point in March that a workshop came up, and I pretty much did the open house like everybody else is doing too. And I saw that Venn diagram, the what is the design of you, what is the sales of you, what is the marketing of you, and I went, I don't have a strategy for any of that. I don't know who I am. My LinkedIn's kind of working. I don't know how my sales are. I don't. We need three strategies, and of the three, I have zero. So let me go ahead and let me join this. And before that, before I joined, I had some recruiters calling me for various stuff. Ones that I realized that if I took it, I would have been very unhappy. Like, take care of the visuals at Walmart. I interviewed for that job. Okay. Yeah, I shouldn't. I'm very happy they said no. I put in my application for an associate level designer, and like maybe I could be an associate in healthcare. I'm like, no, I can't be an associate. If everybody in my team is thanking me for my mentorship and my leadership, I can't just be an associate. Like there'd be a power struggle immediately. So with not knowing anything about my strategies and knowing that I needed to get some strategies, that's kind of why I joined.
Awesome. So you joined in the end of July, and a couple of days ago, I just went back through the community and saw all your posts and everything. And one thing that's struck me is you've made a lot of progress in, 6 weeks or whatever it's been, right? And I'm curious, the first thing that we recommend you do in Career Strategy Lab is visit that first circle of the Venn diagram, the purple one that's all about design, right? So do you
Mhm.
have any insights or takeaways in terms of how that design part of our sprint system has helped you so far and given you clarity about what you want to do in the future?
Literally, this was really the hardest one that I've done, but also the most beneficial, and not just for my career, but also for my life. Because I think like so many people, what did I want to do? Well, I wanted to be what was appealing for an employer so I can get that job, and I'm going to do whatever they want to do. And I was not at all familiar with well, what do I want to do? What am I good at? I wasn't even looking at that. So it was really a lot of bravery to ask my coworkers, who am I? It was completely stunning to understand that every single one of them saw me the same way. There's no collaboration, different, and I asked people outside of my career too, and they're like, "We love that you can bring us all in. That I'll set the bar and make people feel very comfortable, make people feel be very patient, and let them be able to bring that up." So, and they also talked about how I'm great with understanding systems. I'm like, that is what I'm good at. So there was kind of that it felt kind of just like looking at the FedEx label, where if you don't see it, you don't see the arrow. If you don't know to look for the arrow, you don't see the arrow. But once you see the arrow, you're like, how did I miss this? Like completely obvious to everybody else. So it was one of those like, let me understand who I am that everybody is seeing that is so incredibly clear, and then from there I can make my resume, I can make my LinkedIn, I can do everything. It was a little bit of like fear going on because like, is this really what I am? Everybody see me this way? Like, yeah, everybody see me that way. Does my resume say this? Yeah, my resume says this. And then I knew that it's also changed how I even interview.
Mhm.
That I was in an interview and talking about design systems, and my interviews beforehand I would be, well, yeah, I made a design system, blah blah blah, and I did it really as a person that can do stuff with Figma, and that's very replaceable. Like, so every one of us can do something in Figma. But the last time I did an interview, the person asked me like, "Were you a design manager?" I'm like, "Okay." I obviously am taking a lot of ownership, a lot of pride, and a lot of confidence in this interview if they're asking me, was I a manager? So it's very interesting to see what everybody else sees and how that builds that confidence in a way that like a pep talk wouldn't. Like, yeah, anybody can tell me I'm awesome, but that lasts for about a day. But being able to see this great picture, this great thing that can fit in places, really changes how you interview, how you build your LinkedIn, do your resume, even how I'm doing my portfolio. That the story I'm leading with now, I was embarrassed to tell this story, and I was like, this is a really strong story.
Yeah, there's so many things you said, and I'm hoping I remember all the things I wanted to come back to, but one of them was that you started to identify your strengths that you felt like were not replaceable. And
Mm,
for everyone listening, the first part of what we do in Career Strategy Lab is essentially have you do a user research project on yourself. And what Phoenix has described is some of the parts of that where we give you questions that we suggest that you go ask former teammates, current teammates, former boss, etc. And you're really gathering information from different perspectives about you. And that's what Phoenix is describing. And Phoenix, your reflections on it is so similar to so many other people's in that sometimes we have blind spots about what our strengths are, or we just kind of nonchalantly like look over things we're amazing at. And it's not until you ask other people for that validation. And like you said, the more you heard it, you're like, wait a second, I really am good at these things. And then as you really eloquently described, just kind of like the waterfall effect of how that clarity then poured into your resume, your portfolio, even as you said, your interview skills. And so I think, as you said before Career Strategy Lab and that Venn diagram, you realized I really haven't thought about the design of me. So I'm thrilled to hear that that part has been so valuable for you.
oh, yes. Thank you.
And one thing that also struck me is how quickly you started working on your resume. Of course, after you dialed in your compass statement, it's like your about me statement. So, can you share with us a little bit more about like the before and after of your resume? And if you were to pull up the one from June, let's say, how does it compare to what you have now?
That's actually been really interesting, is that the difference between then and now. With both of these, I did have ChatGPT help me out, but before I kind of looked at this as what did I do? Okay, I built a design system. I built a design system in 6 weeks, and I mentored people, blah blah blah, and I let it work from what I was trying to tell it, but I didn't really own it in the same way. And then as
Mhm.
we work on our resumes here, we talk about what do we do, what was our responsibilities, what are our achievements, how do we get it done, and we break it down to each little step. And I ran both my June resume and my now resume through ChatGPT with a question of what salary would you expect I can get from this resume? And it was actually $20,000 more that ChatGPT would recommend based on the new resume. Because a new resume, I was somebody that owned stuff, that I had great results, that I could talk about saving 100 hours per quarter for the feature that I made. Whereas before I made a feature and I re-released it and that was cool, but really who cares? But now that actually has results for enterprise customers to save 100 hours per quarters and it led to rocket sales. My team, I stressed that I mentored them. So it really took into what is my wins as opposed to what did I do.
Mm. I think that point is so valuable. And you said, your previous resume really was listing responsibilities and the what of what you did, which is important, but you gave a few examples that did such a good job at explaining more than just what, but also integrating metrics. And it wasn't, I made the company $1 million, it was I saved the company 100 hours and I forgot the rest. But that is what will help you stand out. And I think for everyone, just metrics do not have to be the final fantastic save the company $1 million. It's the scope of what you did. You saved the team, the company 100 hours. You reduced, you know, bugs by 50%. So there's impact, of course, to the business, but also the team, the company, your teammates, etc. And Phoenix, correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like layering in detail that goes beyond the what has led ChatGPT to tell you you deserve a $20,000 salary increase, which is a great prompt. We might have to use that in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I did have metrics beforehand, but it was not talking about the process, not talking about it as a win. It's like save 100 hours or made this feature led to money. as opposed to led to the feature led to this benefit of customers and lead to this. I made a design system, but I didn't just make a design system. I did a migration from Sketch to Figma, and then I knew that Sketch would going from Sketch to Figma is really difficult, and a lot of people will abort it. So I'm like, if we're going to do this, we're going to also train the staff so they can be successful. And now we're putting that kind of stuff in this. So I wasn't just a doer, but I was a doer that could understand it strategically, that actually has social skills, that every bullet was so much more of what I bring than just a result because anybody can do a result and we don't know context. So,
Yes.
I made $3 million. Is that good? Were you expecting 30 billion? Then
Yeah.
no. Were you expecting five? Then yes. But without context, your result is just fluff.
Yeah. I think that sentence of like the necessity for context is something that we say definitely weekly, maybe daily in Career Strategy Lab, in that if you just layer in more context to your resume, to your portfolio, to your about me statement, that alone will help you not sound like every other candidate, right? Because Phoenix, you said like previously it said something like I made a design system, but without telling us it was a migration from Sketch to Figma and there were these challenges and then you had to educate the team and all this stuff. Like that is a very powerful story. And I think to your point, you were then able to like own the power of that story, right?
Hmm. Yeah, I was in my last interview. I was telling the story of the design system, and I was showing what I did for case study, but I am not reading what I said beforehand because this story is not as good as I can tell it right now.
And that story that you told in the interview was part of what you did for the writing of that case study, right?
Hmm. It was that case study I had not yes, it was what I did for the writing of that case study that I made back in June.
Right.
But then it was telling the story that I did from the resume that I made now, so I can now understand what is my bullet point. My bullet point's a lot more interesting than the story that I made back in June.
Yeah, and one of the things I want to point out that you mentioned is the fact that just redoing your resume alone helped you think more strategically about that project in your portfolio, right? And I think
Hmm.
one of the things that I was really intentional about when I designed this whole thing was the sequence of everything that you do in Career Strategy Lab, because as you said, that compass or about me statement really then fed into everything else. And in the same way, that resume feeds into the portfolio. So the process of approaching all this is a lot easier when everything builds on each other, right? And it's not like these just siloed tasks where you feel like you're starting from zero every time.
Indeed. Making the LinkedIn after you have the resume is a lot so that we now have one statement, one document, kind of shown different ways, a little bit is a lot better than here's my resume. It has nothing to do with my LinkedIn project because those are two different things. Building this in series makes it a whole lot stronger.
Yeah,
Also,
definitely.
less emotional work because there was a lot of emotional work when I was doing the compass statement and finding out what should I really be. There was emotional work when I was doing the resume, and then I'm like LinkedIn, like okay, I did the resume, now it's just the same thing. Okay, now I'm doing my case study. It's a lot of work getting the visuals together, but it really was not as emotional challenging as keeping these four things as four separate things.
Mm. Say more about that. Just kind of the emotional impact and like challenge of those early steps and then how that kind of dissipated as you progress through CSL.
Looking back on companies, I think there's a lot of emotions kind of similar to any kind of breakup that has happened. And you've got to take that time to really process and understand what's happening. So I read my compass statement, and there was a little bit of resentment, I'm going to admit, of like I missed the opportunity to do this. Oh, we had this power. Why did you not see me being this powerful person? So there was just a lot of joy in what my coworkers saw, frustrations of what I could not be. And it was a whole roller coaster of emotions writing my compass statement. And with my resume, there was like broad strokes emotional roller coaster. Then with my resume, I was kind of refining it a little bit more and getting the bullets and be like, they should have appreciated this a bit more. Or, hey, I did this and this was kind of a win. looking at the details, but after 2 weeks of doing all this emotional stuff of getting these statements correctly, now it gets LinkedIn, and LinkedIn, I'm making a banner, but I'm just telling the same story that I've already told. I'm not ruminating. I'm doing something with these emotions to process these emotions to make these strong documents, and then it becomes a I'm telling my stories. It don't need to have a connection anymore because I already did that connection with the compass statement in the resume.
Yeah, and I think one thing that we see happen, and let me know if you agree with this, is that because you put in the work in those first couple of sprints to make that very strong compass or about me statement, you actually believe it. And then when you sit down to write your resume, that confidence, it kind of like snowballs. And so you're already feeling a little bit more confident. And so writing that resume becomes a lot easier because you're not second guessing everything, as you said. And then so on and so forth as you move through all of the different resume, portfolio, LinkedIn materials, and all that.
Hmm.
Can you share more a little bit about like what was life like for you before Career Strategy Lab in terms of your kind of confidence in your skill set in general and like how you were thinking about this next chapter of your career and what has changed in that confidence level in the last 6 weeks or so, let's say.
Oh, it went zero. It went 0 to 100. The first thing, as I mentioned already, that I like systems and I love error statement. I love error catching and stuff like that. You look at the resume at the your interviews and what are people saying, and they're like, well, we like visual designers. Well, I'm not confident in myself in a visual designer because that's not what I do. So there was a lot of fear about applying for anything or showing anything. Well, should I even tell my story because I'm not a visual designer? But getting rid of that and saying, well, I don't need to be measured that way. I need to be a
Yeah.
proud systems person. I need to be a proud mentor. I need to be proud in what I bring to the table because what I bring to the table is what I bring to the table and what I want to do. I'm going to find those people. So I stopped comparing to an image that I would never be. I started being able to tell my story. It's starting to be really looking at everything in my life about how do the systems in my life work. It's led to me like changing how I do CrossFit, what am I trying to get out of my workouts. So now these other areas of my life that I want to have a more controlled, a more discipline of who am I based on this about me statement is building up. So now I don't need to be the person that's struggling in a job and that is my identity, but I am now the proud person of how I'm doing my CrossFit, how I'm doing my improv, and now I can bring that confidence in the who am I to everything I'm doing. The telling the stories just became a whole lot easier. And then I was going somewhere else and I totally dropped where I was going. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Totally okay. I have two more questions, I think, but the first one is really around like 6 weeks ago. Did you have any hesitations around Career Strategy Lab or like tell us more about your thought process of deciding to join? And then the next question, in case you can think and talk at the same time, is like, do you have any advice for someone who might be thinking about Career Strategy Lab? So I'll let you approach that however you want.
Sure. I think that almost everybody is a little bit scared of this price of the price tag of the program. It is a pretty high price tag. And when we don't know when we're going to get the next bit of income coming in, it's a very scary, like, can I afford this? And it finally is we need to be able to tell our stories. We need to be able to be the people that we are going to be, and we need to be able to present ourselves in the marketplace in a case that we are going to win. In a case that we are going to win, we need to know our designs. We need to know our strategies. And I was never going to win. I would never win the official design contest, and so I needed to stop playing that game. And it was
Mhm.
how do I actually tell my story in a way of getting out of this game. I'm very happy I joined. The compass statement is so incredibly important and is so incredibly foreign to how we think about things
Mm.
because we want to be the person that appeals to the employer. But really, what we need to be is we need to find the employers that are going to be appealed by us. Somebody's out there, somebody wants us to work there. It's hard finding them. But the more that we actually know who are we, what do we bring to the table, why does this matter? How can we help somebody win? That's going to attract people. So it's work on the compass statement. I've seen so many times when doing that about me statement, the compass statement, that we all start kind of the wrong way. We still want to hold on to us being what is appealing to them. And it really is so powerful for our lives, for our careers, for everything, to be able to make that about me statement that is the about me. Not trying to be impressive, but trying to find where your passion is in the work we're doing.
I think you summarized that so well because every day that I log into LinkedIn, it seems I see so many posts about, you know, people in UX and product, and frankly, any career. I have friends who do not work in UX who are just not happy and kind of miserable and things like that. And one of the things that always come back to me is if you cannot try and conform to what the companies want and stay true to what you want to do, that really changes it. And I totally understand that sometimes we need to take the job to pay the bills, etc. Like, not going to sit here and pretend that is not reality sometimes. And at the same time, if we can get clearer about what we want, you said it really well, we begin to attract those opportunities to us. And it's not some like woo thing. It's literally, if your LinkedIn is more specific and communicates what you want to do, those people will find you. And just last month, we had two people. One had the CEO of a company reach out to her on LinkedIn because Laura, who updated her LinkedIn, was specific about what she did, and the CEO reached out. Long story short, she got the job. And then someone else, now I'm forgetting who because there's so many people and I mix them up sometimes, but someone else had a recruiter find them on LinkedIn. So this whole attracting the right opportunities to you, it has to do with basically SEO optimizing and, for lack of a better analogy, your LinkedIn profile and making it very clear what you want to do. So I just wanted to clarify that for everyone because that's a really important part of increasing your visibility to the right people, as you said, Phoenix. And then the last question is really around like, what advice would you give anyone if they, decide to join Career Strategy, or frankly, even if they don't, like, what is one piece of advice you would impart to people here who may be in the middle of a job search or frustrated that they're morphing themselves to their company? Like, the floor is yours.
There are two things that I can think of. The first one that I've learned that I learned through the program is our jobs are not our careers. As that person who is going through a job search, who is doesn't have a job at first, I'm like, I'm not a UX designer anymore because I don't have a job. Like, no, I'm still a UX designer. I can still do stuff. I can still write Medium posts. I can still be in the game and I can be active in the game. I'm just not having income come in. The advice that I would have for joining the program, when I first joined, I wanted to be completely fast. I wanted to be completely get it done and rush through it. And very quickly, I learned that that was a wrong approach to take. That everything we're doing it needs to be deliberate. That we gain more power through our reflections, through being able to vocalize what we bring to the market. And that is not something we're going to do if we're just running through. That I was just running through. I was somebody who built a design system. As I'm taking the time to reflect, I'm somebody who mentors, who brings people up, who is going to make your team a better place to be.
Thank you for sharing that. I think many people share your sentiment in that I just want to go through this really fast and understandably, right? And some of this requires marination for lack of a better word, right? And it reminds me, once I was working with a book coach from Texas, and I said to him, if I just pay you double the amount, can we do this in half the time? And he was like, well, that's not really how this works. And it reminded me of your experience. And, in the same way, when we're designing stuff, like sometimes we just need to let it marinate in our head until the right solution becomes apparent. So I think slow and steady wins the race, as they say, right? But the whole process can go faster when you're not second guessing everything and you are doing things in this specific order. And as you said, like, that confidence is compounding really with every step you do.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us. I think this has been really valuable for a lot of people. See you later. Thanks.